Oh, look, it's all in the same line. Oh, so professional.
Easy.
All right. Welcome to the Damaged Goods podcast with your hosts, Ill Vibe and Jess Robert. I had originally written down Ill Vibe and Jill Vibe for this intro, but then I remembered that Anthony hates when people make corny jokes about his rap name.
It's the worst.
Every time he releases a single, like without fail, some guy from Minnesota or something is like, oh, this song has an ill vibe. Yeah. You're always like, no.
Yesterday, I was in the studio working with this talented guitarist, and it was going so well. And then he stopped and was like, this song kind of has an ill vibe to it.
No,
like,
people make the same joke.
Somebody had to do it. Someone had to say it. It's okay. I went through a rage period where it made me like actually annoyed, and now it's just like I've learned to accept it.
Well, next time I'll just do it without shame. Thanks for listening, whether you're listening on a podcast app or Spotify or watching the video version on YouTube. Do us a big favor and follow us on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, whatever app you're using, click the button. Whatever button there is, click it.
Press whatever button is in front of you.
Yeah.
Because if you're one of those like silent viewers, we still appreciate you.
Of course.
But it just helps a little bit when you're like just a little bit less than silent. And there's so many buttons built onto the internet for you to
click
press.
the button, please.
Click one of them.
Yeah.
It could even be the down.
Click all of them?
You could click,
but one of them
you know
is
what?
good too.
I would even accept a thumbs down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Feel
an
free to give a
interaction.
thumbs down just so that I know that there's more people who actually came across this thing that we make.
You can check us out on our socials at Damaged Goods Pod, myself at For Jess Robert, and Ill Vibe at Ill Vibe. At Ill Vibe. Just
Yeah, I'm
Ill
the
Vibe.
one guy on the internet who actually needs two at symbols.
Yeah. A big thanks, as always, to lyricvids.com, the web's #1 lyric video animation company. We've got an awesome guest in today. I'm super excited. Ill Vibe met her on Sirius XM radio. She also owns a comedy label called Howl Roar Records. It is Allison Dore.
Hey!
Hi, guys.
It's always us doing like a yay, like we're like a crowd.
You know, hey, could we start adding a sound effect?
Yeah.
I'd like to add a sound
Do
effect
it.
at that point. It's the same sound every episode. We could just keep it like right there. I like that you got the pink hat memo. Thank you.
Yeah, I did. You know what? I was a little bit nervous because I wanted to leave my hat on because I know you guys do pictures and video, and I think I need bangs. My hair is very flat.
I hear you.
Yeah, and I had a picture earlier today. I was like, I look like a creepy uncle with my hair, like that's how flat it was. So I was like, Cassandra, I'm going to leave my hat on, but is the hat and sweater too much?
No, I love it. I actually
thank
love
you.
it. This is like one of the only podcasts that I haven't worn a hat.
I was going to say,
'cause
Jess is a big advocate
I'm
of
such a hat
the
person.
female toque at all seasons.
And this time I was just like, oh, sometimes I get kind of warm on the podcast. So I'm like, maybe and I was wearing this
you were wearing this
jacket.
fly
So I'm
jacket,
like, I don't want to wear a jacket and a hat. I'll be like sweating buckets. But I love the matching pink hat and pink
For
sweater.
listeners, it's one of the, I don't know what fabric this is, where it's like super fluffy, almost like you're shedding
like
It's
everywhere
like
you go.
it's like a Muppet.
Yes, it's very Muppety. It's like you skinned a Muppet.
Fluorescent pink.
Got it.
Yeah. Well, and then Cassandra, who
Wore him.
produces my radio show, was like, think about what Illy wears.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, color is appropriate.
No, yeah. You see,
Oh, yeah, you guys are looking great. I'm a little dull over here in the corner.
well, but it's a fly jacket. I kind of want it. Jess is the only girl I've ever been with where I wear her clothes sometimes. Like, not like her underwear. I would, but I don't. But like the jacket, I'm just like, I wonder if it fits me. I wonder if it's a too feminine cut.
Yeah, it is a good size for you because it's like big on me. So.
That makes me happy. I'm happy to hear that.
So you can follow Allison at allison.dore or Howlin' Records at howl_roar. And I noticed that every time I see you, I feel like you have like a different look going on. Like you have like, when I first met you with Anthony, you had like short, like light brown hair, right? And then I noticed on the internet that you had like some bald pictures, and now like you're rocking like a whole different, like you're kind of like a chameleon. You're like...
People don't recognize me a lot, and I have internalized that as people don't remember me.
No, I don't think it's that at all. I think
And yeah, I have a lot of self-esteem issues.
That's why you're here.
But is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, is this therapy? Because I love
damaged goods.
But then also yeah, I like switching things up.
Yeah.
And the bald pictures were actually, I did that for a fundraiser.
Cool.
Because I don't think I would have. Yeah, I wouldn't have had the balls, I don't think.
Just randomly be like, today we're going bald.
Yeah. I've always wanted to, since like I'm a child of the 90s. So like Empire Records came out and I'm like, I'm also sad and want to shave my head. But like I've never been, I've always felt like I needed a reason. And so then this woman wanted my radio partner and I at the time to join this campaign and shave our heads. And I was like, oh, wonderful. I've been waiting 20 years for an excuse.
Can I say you have a very nice head shape?
Thank you.
Yes, because only certain people can pull off the bald. And from the pictures I saw, it looked sweet.
I was very nervous, but then I was like, I feel like it really worked.
Yeah.
Like I would never be afraid to do it again.
Yeah, you would do it again?
I like hearing that because it's the thing we talk about here fairly often because I've got some male pattern baldness beginning and I'm 35 turning 36 and the amount I've got is appropriate for my age. If anything, I might even be behind a little bit on how much I could have for my age. So I've got no qualms and especially up top there's a little bit of damage being done. So we talk a little bit about my head shape and like because you don't know until you do it. And granted, I go this
nice
short, so I do have a
too.
sense of the shape.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's a little bit lumpy. And so
It's not lumpy.
especially I know that women are probably a little bit more sensitive to that. So the fact that you were just like, hey, we tried it and it was like, I liked how it looked. It's like, I like hearing these things.
I had a Chelsea growing up. Do you guys know what a Chelsea is?
Yes, because I wanted to do that, but
What's
I was
a
too
Chelsea?
scared.
So a Chelsea's when you shave it all except for like the bangs and like some pieces in the front,
Oh,
and then sometimes
hilarious.
you have like little mullety in the back, but like the middle,
majority.
is all shaves. Yeah.
Wow.
Liz on Degrassi had a Chelsea. She was Spike's best friend. Anyway,
Sounds about right.
Who's the original Chelsea?
I don't know. That's a great question.
That was
Like
named
where the word
after.
Chelsea came
There
from.
must be a Chelsea out there
feel
who
like-
really rocked it and looked bomb.
I feel like it might be like the neighborhood in London.
Oh.
It's also
yeah.
the punk scene
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
wear Chelsea boots.
But there was a girl in Chelsea who still did it first. And I don't know
Yeah,
if her
she
name was
takes
Chelsea or
credit.
not, but I think we should call her Chelsea for now.
Yeah.
Chelsea from Chelsea crushed this haircut so hard that it became a thing. And all the way in Welland, Ontario, Canada, a young, impressionable Jess Roberts said,
I want a Chelsea.
I want a Chelsea.
Give me that Chelsea. So how did you guys meet?
There's actually a dating app where radio hosts and local rappers link up.
Yeah.
This is when
I've
we were
met
together, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
so many rappers that way. Canada's smartest person.
I was doing a media tour around my win of Canada's smartest person.
Yeah, and
Why are you talking like that?
That's how I talked at the time when I was more intellectual.
And in spite of that, I was like, I like this guy. And then, we just kept having you back. And then I asked you if you wanted to guest host.
That was the best.
Oh, yeah. And I asked you if you wanted to do my podcast.
Yes, Digging In with Allison Dore.
Yes.
Do you still do that?
And right now it's on hiatus
Sure.
because I had so many projects that,
You launched your label in that time, right? Which we'll come back to and talk more in depth about in a minute. But
it was... I had some episodes. I've put out some episodes since I launched my label, and then it was just like everything got super overwhelming. So right now I am still doing recording because I also just keep getting access to really great people. And so I'm thinking about maybe doing the season thing.
there are
or
other
maybe
great
it's-
podcasts that I stay subscribed to, waiting for them to come back. Aisha Tyler,
for
I love
sure.
her interview podcast, and she openly said, "Guys, I'm leaving for a while. I'm really busy right now, but I'll be back." And so I just keep it on my feed until
That's nice.
you know what I mean, until she pops back up and does her next one.
I'm hoping that that's what people are doing with mine.
I think you do bleed them. I think it's like the reality is you're going to lose some people if there's not a lot of activity.
Sure.
But I think if you communicate it well and you tell the story well, that you're like, hey, we're going to do bursts of these interviews and then we're going to go away and record more of them and then we'll come back with more.
Yeah.
Then it's like, then they know that's what's happening. So you're not just gone.
That's
It's like
true.
the end
yeah.
of the season. And we're always sad at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Whenever John Oliver's like, that's the end of the season. I'm always like, no, John Oliver for
It's unacceptable.
4 more months. That's unacceptable. But you wait. We
Totally.
wait for the
Sure.
next one.
While we're shop talking, I have a super selfish industry question that I want to ask. So you, as it says on your website, are a professional talker and you have so many different platforms that you kind of are speaking on. How do you stay like fresh? Like how do you, I guess, like, do you have like like a system to like researching the topics that you want to talk about each time, and like how do you stay not like burnt out on like constantly, do you know what I mean, like finding new things to talk about, and like what's your kind of your system for that?
What's your secret sauce?
Yeah, what's your secret sauce?
So I mean, it depends on what area of talking we're talking about. And so let's say there is, like, in terms of speaking, I pretty much do mental health and addiction. Those are my two. And then there's a million stories that go in there, and there's a million ways I can get into and out of it.
Like, you speak publicly about this?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And because I don't want to brag, but I'm really good at having bad mental health and being addicted to stuff. So it's a gift. And then with radio, it's kind of something different every day. There's a few standby things that I go to, like especially with interviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you can't always... First of all, there are some people I interview that there is no information about them on the internet. So all I have is like 2 paragraphs sent by a publicist.
Yeah.
And oh shit. So that stuff, I just kind of then go back to, you know what? My show's an entertainment show. What's your all-time favorite movie? I ask that question too much. Like, what's your favorite book you ever read? And then I try to find out about them as a person.
Sure.
Yeah.
So then that's so much easier than just focusing on the thing that they're promoting, which,
Yeah.
and especially with new artists, often if this is the first, like, let's say album they've ever put out, I mean, there's a limited amount of things to talk about in terms of that specific album.
What got you into music?
No.
I'm sure you get really good at taking their answer and kind of spinning off from that, and then just like continuing with, you know what I mean? Like just like
pull some yarn
making
out of
something
it.
big out of nothing, you know, like.
Yeah.
Listening is never been my strong suit, but over the years I have worked on it. And then when I started in radio, I was like, oh, I have to get way better at that, because they'll give you, 20 more questions if you're listening. Like you just come up with different ways of quarterback. And then how did that feel? And then what did you think when that happened? And, all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, I think you just have to, if you can, research people. And if you can't, think on your feet and have some generic questions ready, right?
Yeah,
and then once they start answering that, and I find, honestly, like, my style on the radio is really conversational, and that helps a lot. Because then they'll suddenly be like, oh, in high school, I hated that. And I'll be like, interesting, high school.
So let's talk about high school.
Yeah. The thing that I like about the way that you interview and just like connect with people is you've got this really, like, I was just thinking in my head the best words to explain it, but you make a very real and very like vivid connection with someone when you talk with them. I often have this like paranoia that I'm like a little bit autistic and I have this difficulty making strong eye contact with people. I feel like you're on the other end of the spectrum. When I'm talking to you across the Sirius XM table, your eyes are like piercingly like, but like, it's like you see all, you overstand when you're talking to somebody, you really read them. And you say you're not a great listener, but I actually think you're a great communicator, and that includes your receptors, because it really feels like when I'm talking to you that you overstand what I'm saying. Like the connection feels very strong, versus when you're talking to somebody else, especially as an artist when you're doing media tours and interviews, is you get a lot of like, they glance in your direction to make sure you're still talking to them.
Right.
But there's no like looking you in the eye to be like trying to figure you out, sort of, because I get a little bit of that from you. Is that it's interesting that your podcast went that way, like digging in with Allison, because you really do dig. Because even on your show, although less, you're trying to, for the little bit of time that you're talking, kind of crawl inside the thing that the person's talking about. That's always how I felt.
First of all, I appreciate all of that a lot. And because I had no experience interviewing when I went into radio. And like we had a podcast and all of this kind of came out of nowhere. And my goal is I want people to feel like they are comfortable, they're having a conversation, someone's listening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I see that a lot when I watch like videos of other people interviewing. And yeah, it's the glance at the person, and then half the time I'm like, where are you looking?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
And so I think the lucky thing about that is that makes people want to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been really great. It makes publicists want to bring their guests, but also I think it's just that I really am fascinated by people, and I love people. Like, I'm a very emotional person, and I frequently get overwhelmed, and I'll be like, I hate everyone today. The other day I said to my dog, I go, I like 3 people and 2 of them are you. And it was like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. But in reality, I get frustrated sometimes when people are dinks, but overall I really like people. So I feel like, yeah, there's something in there. And hopefully, yeah, I can connect with you on that level. The thing that spooks me out is when people come on and I can't get a read on them at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they just have no...
Listen, a certain percentage of people are sociopaths, and you have so many people come through your show, and I would guess after a while you can maybe get pretty good at picking them out of the crowd.
Yeah, like, so there are some people where it's like, if someone comes to me a week from now and goes, listen, we arrested that person, I'm gonna be like, yeah, can I guess why?
Yeah.
And then there's some people too that I think just, well, no, even if it's just that they're nervous, usually we can find that thing.
Totally.
But yeah, every now and again there's someone who, there's just nothing there.
And it takes everybody a different amount of time to get rid of the nerves too. Cause I think that if I was on Sirius or something like that, it's like, it would probably take me a good, like 3 minutes or whatever to like really get into like the group. But some people, it might take them a half hour, you know what I mean? Like to really like let their guard down and like open up. And then if you catch one of those people and your segment with them is only 20 minutes or whatever, it's like, they're never going to let their guard down throughout that whole thing. So you really have to kind of gauge the type of person you're talking with and kind of adjust based on that, right?
And yeah, for podcasts, that's not so bad because it's like we kind of do our own thing in the beginning, and they can realize it's very safe. We're being very casual. You'll hear me stutter and repeat something, so obviously we're not that worried about nailing everything. So I think that people will relax. But you're right, in a 3 or 5 minute segment, it's like you really have to be on your game. That's why you got to be chatting with your publicist in the Uber on your way over.
Yeah, exactly. Already get
dust yourself off, get yourself all ready.
Celeb mode. Yeah, totally.
One of the things that I think about is like when we first started this is I'm really curious about people, and I love the idea of being able to sit somebody down and like plan out some questions that can help me get to the root of something. And a lot of the time when you're out in the world, people are slippery. There's things going on. You'll be at something and you're like, hey man, I'd love to ask you about this thing. And they give you one answer and it's actually really like, wow, that's really interesting. But you're not in the right place to be asking 5 follow-up questions.
Yeah.
It's just not, and how often is there that? And I mean, more often recently, like we had a power lunch with this amazing artist and actress named Corey Lee. And we actually got to sit down for 90 minutes and ask questions about stuff that like we are curious about in the industry that she's in. But you have to book like that meeting with someone. You can't just ask that. So I think of this podcast as an opportunity to almost like pin somebody down in a way for an hour and be like, you kind of have to answer the question.
Sure.
Like, and not aggressively
that we want to ask.
No, not aggressively, but in the way that like, if you know somebody who's really interesting and like, I mean, you're one of these people, but I'm trying to think of all of the different reasons that somebody might be interesting to you. In some cases it's career wise. In some cases you're a genuine fan of that person. And it's like, well, this is a place where you get to be polite and subtle about it, but you can really kind of like, they're glued to you for a second and you can answer, you can ask the question.
Yeah.
So I have so many science questions. I would really love to bring somebody on who's like knows way more than me about science stuff, just to be like, man, get ready. We're going on a crazy run. I have questions and I would love somebody to answer them. Because when I watch Joe Rogan or some other thing on YouTube and I have questions, there's no one to answer them.
Yeah.
There's a million great videos I've watched where I learn things about whatever, how a black hole is made or like, but you can't ask any questions back to kind of it's very one-sided. You're like getting a speech. You're essentially getting a speech about black holes, but I have questions about it. I didn't really understand that part. And so it's like when you have somebody here, you can ask that. And that could go to, I personally don't have any, and maybe I'll think of one, questions about mental health, but it's like, that's what a great opportunity to sit down and ask somebody about that. But we should talk about comedy and talk about Howl and Roar and talk about what you're doing with comedy and get my comedy nerd on today.
Yeah.
Smash some stuff.
My comedy nerd.
Yes. If you didn't have the privilege of seeing that beautiful dance, it was quite beautiful and aggressive,
beautiful.
maybe a little. So you started out as what was the first thing you did? Was it radio or comedy or?
The first thing I did was acting.
Cool.
And, I started doing plays and stuff as like a teenager and auditioning for TV and stuff, mostly non-union things. And then I went to theater school. And in that time, when I was about 18 and my brother was 21, he started doing stand-up. And then for about 3 years, he kept bugging me to do it. And I was always like, I'm not funny. And he would be like, you are funny. I'm like, well, I'm not funny like that. And so then after 3 years, I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it one time. And that's not really a thing. So 17 years later, I guess probably more like 14 years later, things comedy-wise were okay, but definitely wasn't paying my bills, was working a couple of crappy jobs. And that's when this comic I had recently worked with was like, do you want to start a podcast? And then we put up our podcast 5 days a week just because we wanted to do something that set us apart in some way.
Yeah, smart.
Wow.
And so we set it up like talk radio, but we'd have to like record all the episodes in one day because I was doing stand up and working 2 jobs and he was on the road all the time. And then we pitched it to Sirius. It's a whole long story,
Sure.
But there was a whole big to-do and back and forth and blah, 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 what have you. But then we ended up at Sirius. And so I've been there for almost 6 years. And about 2 years ago, I stopped doing stand-up. And now I just live in radio.
Did you just prefer the radio stuff over stand-up and that's why you wanted to stop doing it, or?
You know what? If I'm going to be real honest about it, I think I realized I didn't love stand-up enough and I would always be mediocre because I wasn't really willing to grunt. And so don't get me wrong, I love comedy, but at the same time, it was kind of an awakening because I love interviewing and getting to know people and digging in way more than I like making jokes. Yeah. And comedy had started to feel like I had started to realize that there's a lot of subjects that I wanted to talk about that I don't feel funny about and I don't want to have to be funny.
Yeah.
And then radio gave me that outlet where I was like, look, being funny is for sure a bonus, and I think is one thing people like about my show. But at the end of the day, I can be as serious as I want.
You really
Yeah.
do bounce between very, very serious and quite silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so to have the freedom to do that.
Some segments
I could
we
totally
go to
see
commercial
that.
and you're dancing, and some segments we go and it's like a somber moment. Like there'll be like a gong, like gong. And go to commercial. It's like it could really be either of those ends of the spectrum. I really identify with that idea of there's certain things I wanted to say that didn't fit within the voice of the thing that I built.
Yeah.
That's very much been my experience in the last 4 years.
with
It's like,
hip-hop, or?
my background is as Canada's hardest working young rapper. It's like that's way before you knew me. That's how people knew me. Even on my iTunes, some music journalist I don't know. There's like a quote. I guess that's how Apple works. Is they find some quote from an official music journalist about you and they put it in the thing. And even the way it describes me is just like this keen, ambitious. Because that was me. I was the young kid who was willing to play 500 shows a year and write 100 songs and constantly working. You know what I mean? And then here I come out on the other side and it's just like, oh, I built this thing that really only shares about 10% of the things on my mind.
Yeah.
And this, we've told the story 100 times, but that's literally the birth of 30% of our home is this podcast studio because this represents 60% of the things I'd like to say that don't fit within raps,
Yeah.
And of course, I'm singing and doing other things that help me cover some of those. But I think the idea is to get to as close to 100 as you can. And you can never quite get all the way to 100 because there's a couple things that you're like, you have an interest, but not enough to make that one of the the things you do. Like I would love to write a script, but I'm always like, it's just too big to add that to the list of things I'm doing right now.
It's really going to take time away from the other things you can be investing your time in that you know what I mean, that you know are going somewhere, where that's kind of just like a question mark.
So you can never get to, I think, doing 100% of the art forms that would allow you to express all of your various emotions. Yeah. But I think it's like getting to as many as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then realizing when something isn't serving that anymore, right?
Yeah.
And it was really hard for me. I just kept kind of like cutting down with stand-up, like being like, well, I'm not going to go on the road anymore. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm gonna not worry about doing how many shows I'm doing and all. Like it was just a slow decline.
Sure.
Until finally I was like, why am I still doing this? Like then it got even more stressful, because if you're not doing it all the time, it's like a muscle, right? And then so I'd stress out before every show, be like, oh no, have I not been doing enough comedy? Do I? And then it was like,
so it's important to be real with yourself and then have that conversation. I think there's a really profound concept that I'm really trying to internalize in my 20s and now in my 30s, is that the thing that got you here, like the thing that even got you in the room right now, might be the thing that's holding you back from getting to the next place.
Yes.
And that's really hard to internalize, because it's like,
absolutely,
I wouldn't even have a podcast if I didn't rap. I would never even made it this far. I mean, maybe in some alternate universe I would have got a different way to get here.
Yeah.
But in the universe I know, rapping is what got me to lyricvids.com. Rapping is what got me to podcasting. Rapping is what got me to even being a leader in my community and all these things. But if I just focus on rapping, it would be actually the reason why I never get to the next level that I'd really like to get to.
Yes.
And so it's hard, because it's really hard to let go of the thing that is really it's the ladder I've been climbing for 15 years.
Yeah.
Well, and it's how you identify in some ways. Like for me, it's like, if I'm not a comedian, I don't know who I am.
Yeah. Why am I awesome if not for that reason?
Well, and it's just, it becomes an identity instead of just like what you do.
Yeah.
And actually, since stopping, I'm like, I'm very comfortable not being a comedian.
Yeah.
And
it's like an addiction in itself in some ways.
Yeah.
Like the further you get away from it, you're like, it's crazy to think I thought I could not do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it help that you're still involved in the industry too? Because it's kind of the opposite of what you were saying. It's just like she's literally just kind of, instead of getting off that ladder, she's just kind of moving over.
It's
you know
not
what I mean?
the opposite, because in a lot of ways that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is
taking the same
when
thing
when is it my role to switch over and be the boss and not make it always about me?
Literally, if you look at your
it's very
career
similar.
Trajectories, you guys are on very similar.
Very similar. And I think the thing is with me is I don't think I'd be I think I'd be unhappy if I stopped releasing music, and so I'm going to keep releasing music. But all the meetings we're taking, all the ones where we're like yelling at each other, are about other artists, because it's like, I'm not the guy worth yelling at somebody about. I'm getting older. I'd like to start fresh with somebody who's got like more trajectory that I could be mad about if it's not, you know what I mean? It's like, that's the guy I was just explaining to Andrew, who's an artist we're thinking of signing, that it's just like, he's like, yeah, you're always so calm in the studio. I'm like, you've never seen me when I thought we had one worth going to bat for. It's like the calmness goes out the door when it's like, when it really matters. And I guess that's just a metaphor for, I'm aware of like, the older I get, my trajectory is still huge. It just keeps changing. I'll never be the hot young artist on XXL magazine. I've grown through that window now. I think there's a thing in Double XL magazine every young rapper wants to be, where they put like 7 young rappers on the cover. I've blown through that, the window.
Rapping specifically has a little earlier of an expiry date.
Yeah. I absolutely am still young enough to be playing festival stages, and I'm young enough to be doing all of the things. Like Cardinal is 15 years older than me, and he's still like a name in hip hop. So I've got a long way to go as an artist, but I just really identify with that. Like, it's time to let go of certain aspects, grab onto new rungs, and try the impossible thing all over again in like a even riskier position.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're putting your own money, energy, and I feel you. I see. So how is it going? How is Howl Roar Records
So
going?
explain to the listeners what Howl Roar is.
Great place to start.
So Howl Roar is a female-centric comedy record label. So 80% of our focus and our output is female comedians. And then we leave 20% for dudes, just in case. Nice. And largely from the LGBTQ plus community or men of color, stuff like that. And
voices that need to be heard.
Yeah,
right?
essentially.
I think that's your thing.
Yeah, it's we're sort of whatever isn't the mainstream. And in comedy, really, mainstream is still straight white male. And it almost happened by accident. A few things collided in order to make it happen. One of which was just that I program a 1-hour weekly comedy show for Sirius XM that celebrates women in comedy. And I just realized like there's so many women in Canada that have nothing recorded and like that have been in it 20 years and not even like what is happening? And so that really bugged me. And then a couple of things happened in my personal life. And then I was like, you know what? I was just going to do it really small scale, set up like maybe 3 or 4 shows. I'll produce them myself. We'll record them all low key, like help people put out albums. And then it just snowballed real fast.
It got big.
Everything like when 2018 started, this was not on my radar at all. And by January 7th, 2019, our first album was out. So it was like,
Crazy.
Yeah, everything happened really, really fast and kind of got bigger and bigger. And now people just keep coming and they want to work with me, and which is amazing. Part of it is so terrifying because there's still so much that I don't know. And so I find I struggle a lot with like, am I going to be able to give them everything they want?
Sure.
Right. But the really exciting thing is honestly just being able to help people who probably without me just wouldn't do it.
I think as somebody who shares that like imposter syndrome, like I'm trying to be a boss, but like I don't really know. I'm no Tommy boy. You know what I mean? Like I don't know all of the things that some record exec is supposed to know. I think you just own that.
Yeah.
Own this is what we do. This is the thing we do really well.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, because it's going to happen. It's happening with me all the time where it's like, so talk to me about this. And I'm like, I'm going to be honest. That's an area we're working on.
Yeah.
Like I understand the area, but I don't know anybody, publishing is one of them. It's like, I don't know a lot of people in publishing. So I've done a lot of research about publishing last year. I learned about how it fits in the puzzle, but it's like, and yeah, I get stressed out every time someone says the P word in the studio.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a weak spot in our game right now. We don't have that deal in place. So it's like, I just tried to take it from we're working on that. And this is what we do really well. What we do really well is like distribution. So you have a platform already ready. It's like you focus on what you do really well. And these people are going to be so excited to work with you. That's what I love about it is that you took these two things and you identified that gap in the middle where you're like, hey, I have this amazing platform. I know all these amazing women. And I keep playing the same clips over and over on this platform. It's an easy solution.
Yeah.
I love it. Often it seems so complicated, but that's so basic, like such a basic observation to be like, wow, I really wish I had more. Who are some of the women who you've done specials with already?
Kate Davis.
Yeah, we were there for the taping. That was really fun.
Yeah. Natalie Norman. You were there for one of those.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Me and Shayla were there for that.
And then we did Kyle Brownrigg. The weird thing is gay men, not a lot of representation at all.
Interesting.
Gay women are probably doing better than gay men at this point.
I could see that. Because it's a very like male dominated kind of bravado scene. I don't know if bravado is the right word. That makes it sound super negative.
No, but I know
it's
what you
just
mean.
like it is. Yeah, it's not a super comfy scene. I could imagine for a
Certainly
gay male.
traditionally.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's interesting challenges, I think. And so it's content that I think is really important.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And then Inessa Frantowski, who is a genius and so funny and ridiculous. And Ted Morris, who is great. So we've got a lot. And then I basically got recordings lined up until the end of summer.
Wow, I love
Nice.
that.
So yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
So if someone's Toronto based and they want to support, like what's coming up next? Like what's the most like recent or not recent, the thing that's coming up next?
/ how do they find out what's coming up next if they listen to this?
Right. People can go to howlandroarrecords.com.
Perfect.
And it's already there. Follow on social media at howl_roar. So Marilla Wex is coming up next. It's February 27th. And then March 24th is Rebecca Reed's.
And I imagine, at this point, are you still kind of crossing off some names from these are like women that you've seen paying their dues over the last so many years, and you're like, Because I imagine when you're sitting in that spot where you're like, man, how come Kate Davis doesn't have?
Yeah.
So these are people that you've like known for some time, and
yes.
Is that where you is that where you started? As sort of a fan of and watching it kind of grow, I sort of assumed these must be the people that Al's seen for a minute in the scene and are like overdue for a special, because you went immediately, you like almost at the gate from when the website was live. It was like you had a couple of like women in mind and ready to go.
Yeah. So, I mean, especially with Kate, who I've known for a long time, and then just realizing that she didn't have an album at all. It's so ridiculous. And so she was the first person I pitched. And then some of it since then has been people where, I'm surprised they don't. And I thought they might be into it because I'm also in the beginning, I'm asking people to take a gamble.
Sure.
Like, let me release an album for you. Oh yeah, I've never done it. And
but if they've never put out an album either, it's like, it's really, you're helping them achieve a dream. Because I'm not a comic, but even coming at it from the thing that it's like, if I had never put out an album and someone's just like, hey, it's crazy that you haven't. I've been seeing your show so many times. It's just like, yes, please.
Well, and I'm not an unknown quantity, right? That's the other thing, is that most people know me. I have a pretty good reputation.
Your two collections on point.
My tooth collection?
Toque.
Oh, toque. I
Your
think it's tooth.
Listen, if you have a tooth collection, we can talk about that in the next segment.
No, so I and then some people have come to me and asked me, and one of the things that I want to do is really help people who are overwhelmed and don't know. And with women, there's this thing where I think in comedy, you kind of have to keep proving yourself over and over again, so you never really feel like you've earned anything.
Sure.
And so a lot of women, I think, don't feel like they're allowed to record an album, or they don't. They're waiting for someone to invite them, essentially. And so now I get to be in the great position of being like, I think you should record an album, and you don't have to do it with me, but I think that you should. It's
an affirmation, even if they ultimately decided the business wasn't right for them.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm not the only comedy label, right? I'm like, and to be honest with you, here's the thing, like, yeah, it's a business, but it's also not a business. Like, my goal is to break even, essentially, right? And because my thing is like, just record an album. To most of these women, I'm like, I don't really care if you do it with me or not. Like, I would love to do it. I'd be honored. I'm going to make you something really great. But as long as you do it, I don't care who you do it with.
I think that's how you build something really great, because, you know, when we were in Europe, we met up with these guys from Spinnin' Records. It's like a EDM label from Europe. They've got 25 million subscribers on the label's YouTube channel. And that's because they built something authentic from the ground up, where they used to go to those EDM underground parties, and they signed the DJs like the right way, where it wasn't scammy and taking advantage. And they talk so much about how they have like an actual loyal listenership and fan base and like friend community to this like label.
Right.
And it's what they do is very different from what Heavy Ox does, and very different from what you do. But I still took it as like a case study of like, oh man, build something authentic that people can feel is like, right down to even when I'm negotiating deals with the artists, it's like, man, I wouldn't want to give you a less fair deal than this, because I want even the people in your shot of you to be like, wow, that's a really fair. Yeah. Like I want that. That's how you build something truly great. Yeah. That's how you make a Def Jam or a Spinnin' Records. That's how you make you know what I mean? I imagine that's what they're doing over at All Things Comedy, where it's like all of a sudden it feels real and people care about it. You know, it's just like, and so that's what I think that's it, man, is you doing that, even though it feels like you're just breaking even right now. It's like the comedy fans start to respond to that stuff. And then more and more people are coming out to those same shows, and all of a sudden the profitability goes way up. It's just like, that's honestly the same thing that I'm focused on. It's just building something really genuine, where our eye is on the quality and on building the platform, so we can just keep on doing this. You're kind of building a machine, but not in the cold way. The idea that you're building this this machine, this platform that can put out quality comedy or quality music that like people can kind of get behind and follow the label. That way later you can break new artists that maybe you just really feel great about the voice. You're like, I don't know if they're not that big yet, but you're like, they love what they're doing. And it's like, you can launch them off of Howl Roar, and people are like, everything that comes from Howl Roar is so great. And it's like, that's a thing. Yeah. You know, I'm excited, man. Yeah. That's why I got involved with Al and the marketing of the label really early, because I'm a nerd for this stuff. And it's like, it was so fun to even hear your like description of what it was going to be like and the voice of it. And the community that it serves. And it's just like, it's cool to see then from a meeting at a coffee shop to it come to life. And happening sort of at the same time that we were doing what we were doing behind the scenes. So it was ongoing inspiration. I dig it.
And it's, a lot of the way I run the business is about changing the culture in Canadian comedy, which is largely just crapping on comedians, right? And the infrastructure that is set up right now, and the people that are making money off of comics are literally making money off those comics. Like the comics aren't really benefiting. And so that's another reason why for me, it's not about making money. I would love to not lose money, and I will get there someday. But for me, it's more about like, being fair and treating comics well and saying, no, I think what you do is good and your specific voice matters. And so, when I am doing publicity, it's like, yes, it's about the brand. But I want the brand recognition so that then we leverage that for your name recognition. Absolutely. Right? And we use the brand recognition to boost your name.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like self-gracious. Is that a thing where it's like it's about you like bigging up Al and this great idea you have? It's more than, and even like Howl and Roar, it's like if you look at it, it feels, even the branding of like the social media, it feels like it's about the comics.
Oh, good.
You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it's like Howl and Roar and then like which comic is on this show? It's very much about them. Yeah. And uniformly branded with a beautiful design done by anybody involved. And that part of the team was great. But yeah, no, it doesn't feel like you're like trying to steal the credit from the artist by any means. Building a platform that bigs them up. I love it, man.
Thanks.
And being here watching Jess start at the bottom, it's cool to see because one of your girls got a Juno nomination, right? No,
not mine.
No, okay. There was somebody who was at your event. I could have sworn it. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna look this up. Chanty, she didn't get a Juno nomination.
Chanty. Oh well,
isn't she something? Okay, maybe she's just a friend.
Yes, they.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
No, that's all right. Yeah. But. Shanti did get a Juno nomination.
They are not signed to Howl Roar.
They're not signed to Howl Roar.
Okay, I think they were at the taping.
Yes, so at our launch, Shanti, I made them do the ask people to sign up for the email list.
I perceive that as being probably associated with the label, but it's just some friend vibes.
Offered to help out, and I said, "You're good at going up to strangers and saying words." So I was like, "Will you ask people to sign up for our email list?"
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that led to a Juno nomination.
Probably.
Yeah.
So our first album just came out in January, so we didn't make
that's how you get a Juno, right?
Juno next year. Yeah, email list. It's not that far off.
Email list of the year goes to email list collector. Do you want to talk about some other weird stuff?
Yeah.
I have a news story that I've been waiting to share with Jess.
Yes.
Because
I hope it's the same one that I have to share with you.
There's no way. If it is, I'll love it. Okay. Because Jess has been waiting for this news story our entire relationship.
Oh no.
It's that scientists believe that animals are more cognitive than we thought they were.
Yay!
Because Jess and I argue about this all the time. It's the thing that I'm probably the most demeaning about, where I'm just like, yeah, Jess, the dog thinks this, and I'm like super sarcastic. So you just
mentioned talking to your dog earlier.
Yeah.
I talk to my dog a lot, and I ask her like specific questions, and it's like he's always making fun of me, being like, she doesn't know, and I'll be like, oh, is that embarrassing? Are you shy? Are you embarrassed now? And he's like, she doesn't feel embarrassment. I'm like, oh, she does. Like there's like so many like emotions that I attribute to her that he's like, she doesn't feel that emotion.
Yeah, you do. You do get pretty. What's the word where you give like a inanimate object people things? There's a word for this.
Personify?
Word. Yeah, maybe it is. I don't know. I'm the worst. I shouldn't have a podcast.
Yeah, you don't know one word. Yeah. How dare you have a podcast?
I don't know any of the important words. That's the problem. Anyways, you give animals people attributes.
Yes.
To a really like.
But how many times has it been where I've said something about Callie and then a few weeks later, a few months later, you're like, you know what? I think she does know that. Like, I forget what the one thing was. It was something about
the big one was the luggage.
The luggage. That was the one. So
she said the luggage makes her sad.
She gets depressed when we're packing our luggage, and he's like, there's no way that she understands that.
But I think maybe
she definitely understands.
Oh, she definitely does.
Yeah,
without a doubt. When he suggested that I was crazy, I was just like, no, like I know that I'm right.
Do you guys want to hear the examples I dug up?
Yeah,
animals being able to to do shit that's creepy?
Yes.
So the biggest one, I'll start with the one that's the creepiest. So a magpie, in 2008, a magpie passed the mirror test. Do you know what the mirror test is?
I don't even know what a magpie is.
A magpie's a bird.
Oh, okay.
They recognized that it was their reflection.
Yeah. So they put a dot on the magpie's neck and then put a mirror in front of it. And then the magpie was like, tried to get the dot off itself. So it like not only recognizes it's him,
but
it's able to scan himself
Go, that's
herself
not me.
and go, oh, there's something there that shouldn't be there. So it knows what it looks like.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, in 2008, passed this mirror test. So,
Yeah.
bright red dot, only seen the mirror, and it went to check his neck. The other examples I found were about the crows. Crows seem to be
Crows are very smart.
they're
So
like
smart.
the monkeys of the sky or
Yeah,
whatever.
there's like
where
a documentary on crows, and it's like crazy. They're the only ones who, or one of the only ones who use tools.
Yeah, they turn sticks into hooks.
Yeah.
So they can like modify tools.
Yes. And that shows like hyper intelligence in
And
an
they
animal.
know traffic lights. So they do the thing with the walnuts on the road where they watch for they throw walnuts on the ground, cars drive over them, and then they wait for a red light, and then they swoop in to get the broken walnuts.
Oh,
wow.
genius.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like next level, like proper, they've got a whole system in place.
Yeah. And that's like next level using tools too. You're using machinery like giant cars to like break your nuts.
Yeah. So the article that I read talked about a religion that believes that all animals have an inner world. And then the article spent, in my opinion, way too much time talking about this religion, because I personally don't put a lot of faith in that idea that all animals have an inner world. But they basically connected that to new developments with scientists, like these mirror tests, where it's like, if the bird is able to do that, how far does that go? How much of awareness of self does it have beyond the physicality of that's what it looks like? Does it want things? Because all of these things have immediate
Is
implications.
it self-conscious? Does it think it's fat when it looks in the mirror?
We aren't smart enough to immediately know the implications, but these scientists go, well, if it knows what it looks like and it has an awareness of self, it's like, well, those two things equal it could be anxious now. It's like it has the ability to worry now potentially about, is there going to be enough walnuts? And then now do these birds worry more than these birds? And it's like you start picturing anxious birds and like jealous birds and all these emotions that you don't really think of. You think of them as being very like, hey, food, eat, fly. But in actuality, even the idea of an animal having an inner world to me is interesting.
Do you eat meat?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm a pescatarian, so I eat only fish. But the other day I went to a restaurant for Winterlicious, which, if you don't know, is like Toronto's thing that they do so that poor people can have a nice 3-course meal for a reasonable price. They do it every winter, and I think they have Summerlicious as well. So I went to Winterlicious and I had the octopus because I do eat seafood, but I couldn't stop thinking the whole time about how smart octopus are.
Yeah.
And I felt really bad.
That
for
was on the
eating
list
it.
as well. They talked about the example where the octopus learned how to open the jar.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very smart.
They've got, it's crazy.
Did you know that raccoons are the only animals that animals can figure out puzzles, but raccoons are one of the only ones that then know how to teach it to their offspring so that it becomes like a learned and it gets passed down.
That's really
cool.
interesting.
Yeah. My friend Heather just did her master's in environmental somethings, and raccoons was that. Yeah, I pay.
So
a
does
lot
that
of
mean
attention.
in like 20 years that like raccoons are going to like take over because they keep like
Guardians of
passing
the
down the
Galaxy
skills?
was way ahead of themselves on this one.
It's probably pretty close.
Yeah, so that's argument Jess wins for now. 'Cause
Wow.
it seems that animals do know more than they let on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a Disney movie where they're like playing stupid to us a little bit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Definitely certain animals are smarter than others.
Like dolphins could talk, but they just know not to.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
But there's also a difference between sort of like the logic-based figuring out tools versus
Yes,
the
of
concept of
course.
an inner world.
There are
right?
many layers of
Yeah.
basic. Yeah, you think about what all the things like a baby goes through where they just realize that there's other things than themselves in this world. Like all those things that it's like, who knows where animals fall. And maybe one day we'll have a chart, probably we will, where it shows like a bit newborn baby to a grown man and where animals and women.
Yeah,
Where it's
totally.
like where animals fall on this.
Yeah.
And most will be down there around baby, but then all of a sudden you find out that
Isn't there
raccoons are like 9-year-old boys basically, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it.
Yeah.
Isn't there like a certain age of babies where they don't even they all of a sudden click into recognizing like humans, like people, instead of just like shapes? You know what I mean?
Yep.
When they're like really
they're
small.
responding to shapes and colors initially, I think.
Yeah, and then finally they're like, oh, this is a person who loves me or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then later you find out, oh, they love other people that aren't me.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still working on that part. Raccoons are emotionally there. They know.
Yeah. They're on board.
Did you guys hear about the girl throwing the chair onto the gardener? Yeah. So for anyone who didn't hear about this, basically in Toronto, there's a video, I guess it's like probably like a Snapchat or an Insta story of a girl throwing like a lawn chair type thing, a balcony chair onto the gardener, which is a really busy highway here. And basically now there's like a witch hunt for her, or not witch hunt, I guess is a bad word.
She's in trouble.
There's a hunt for her because she's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Well, and to be fair, just because it can be confusing, like a fully grown woman, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would also refer to her as a girl,
female, but
like an adult woman, and it's thought that it's her condo, and it just says "Good morning," and then it's a video, and she just pitches the chair
Potential
over.
murder.
Yeah,
sure. There's a million
was
reasons
hurt,
why
but
it's a bad idea.
it's like it could have potential. And then at the end of this article, I read this is one of the videos of a current trend going on. So then I clicked and I found one other video of somebody throwing a chair off a balcony. It wasn't onto the gardener, but I was just like, please stop calling things trends because it's like people who have like anxiety, like me. Speaking of mental health issues, like I'm afraid to drive in a car, and I think like weird, obscure things are going to happen that like would never have any likelihood of happening. And I watched this girl throw her chair off the balcony, and I'm like, oh, that's going to happen to me next time I'm in a car. So it's like, don't call it a trend because people generally don't do this. Am I right?
Also,
right,
don't
guys?
call it a compliment.
No, people.
Okay.
Also, don't forget about Dre. No, that's definitely not going to happen to you.
Yeah.
I did read in the article that it happened a previous time last year that police also investigated.
That might have been the
other time that it's happened now, which isn't a trend.
No.
But I will say this. She's doing it in like a faux, let's start a trend. There's not enough people with balconies with chairs over highways for this to even become a trend.
Yeah.
Who are dumb enough to do something like that. But she's doing it in that kind of like, look how dumb I am.
Yeah, like
your move, internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
she
like,
intentionally was just like, hey, internet, look at this.
and that it almost should be in modern times like worse because she didn't just throw a chair. Because if she just threw it off and let's say some security camera caught it, it's like, she should go to probably jail for that. I don't know exactly how that works. I don't have the time to sort out the level of the crime, but if she does it and sort of suggests that like
I want
other
this to
people
go viral.
could do it,
Yeah, totally.
that to me sounds like / inciting violence. You know what I mean? And I'm not listen, I'm very rarely the guy on this podcast being like, more people in more jails more often.
Yeah.
But I do think that one's sort of like, that's kind of behavior that we do need to watch.
For sure.
And there's enough kids on the internet, born with the internet. Listen, I don't shit on the next generation. Like I actually believe that they're not as fucked up as the internet would lead us to believe most of the time. But they are on the internet all the time. And we do need to teach them that like, some of these things are real. You can't just go on the internet and be like, let's all throw chairs at cars. Yeah. It's just like, whoa. And that's not what she did, but using that as a maybe sort of intense example, that should have major consequences, even if only one person does it. It's just like, no, we don't want any young people thinking, what's a fucked up thing I get people to do? That's a really backwards use of this cool network we've created. And I'm not even anti-troll. I'm not even you want to go on and like just for the lols, but what's some fucked up shit we could do that would actually ruin some lives along the way isn't really for the lols. Like I think we can kind of draw a line about people who post funny GIF responses on Twitter. Man, I'm about it. Be as roasty as you want to be. That's very different than this like, I'm going to try to start a trend that would actually hurt people if they tried to do it. Where it's just like, oh, that's gross to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be fair, people have been throwing things on highways for a real long time.
Sure.
Also,
she didn't invent it?
No.
Oh, fuck.
But also, she looked like pretty old. Like, I felt like when I watched the video, like she's in her 30s at least.
Yeah, she was not a kid.
Long lady, I don't remember.
Yeah, I felt like she was like too old for this shit.
Yeah.
I feel like the people that are doing dumb shit on the internet that are setting a bad example
mostly younger than her.
No, I think they're mostly older than her.
Oh, shit.
I think it's mostly idiots who are way too old for this shit, but also are like, you can get famous on the internet for anything.
Totally.
They don't get
it. You're right.
Yeah, they don't get the repercussions, whereas young people might be kind of like raised with the repercussions. They know that if they say something to somebody, it's going to go viral or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas older people are just like,
tone deaf.
almost
it's
like
not internet tone deaf
not
a
to
little
put your dad on blast. I don't think he listens to this podcast, but you and him will get into fights over stuff.
Yeah.
about things that he says, but I don't think he really realizes that these are, you know what I mean? Does
Yeah,
that
my
make
dad's the
sense?
darkest skinned racist person in the world.
I wasn't going to go there, but
Because my dad's like pretty like ethnic looking, and he just doesn't have the belief system of somebody who looks as ethnic as he
Right.
does.
And he thinks
so. It's
this is
actually like
it
he's
is
a
innocent,
walking like
but-
sitcom character because
Yeah.
it's just like, Dad, you sort of fit the description you're talking about right now. Like you look like he says things about Middle Eastern people, but my dad's Sicilian, which is like swimming distance from the Middle East.
Yeah, it's very close.
It is the Middle East. The difference is the food they eat only.
Yeah.
Because it
Right.
happens to be connected to Italy, and not even because it's an island. It's not even connected to Italy. Italy just invaded it most recently.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like so funny to me, and like my dad's full of love. He doesn't hate anybody, but he just says like these things. I'm like, his thing was like about like police officers wearing turbans. He was like, it's unacceptable, and it's just like, Dad, why?
yeah, he's like, what?
It literally doesn't matter.
He's like and he's like this little 4 foot tall like Middle Eastern looking guy. And so
Yeah.
it's just so funny to even have these conversations. with
Anyways,
him.
the only way I brought that up
I had to
is,
just own it because it's really funny.
is in the sense of like, older people don't really realize like the repercussions of
Yes.
things they say online.
Post memes.
Right.
So you could be right where it's just like, like the older people are the ones being like, oh, like this is what you do on the internet, right? It's just like, no, that's not how you do it.
Forever to them, even they don't
Yeah.
even think about it in that same.
Did you guys
way.
hear about, this is like maybe even pre-internet, it was a long time ago, but the kids who like threw like a frozen turkey out of their car?
No.
So it smashed into a lady's windshield and broke like every bone in her face.
Oh, wow.
So these are like the types of phobias I have. I don't know why, but like that and like
Watch
people
out for flying turkeys.
throwing chairs onto highways and stuff. So it's like, I don't know. This is a PSA. Please don't throw stuff at cars
Jess's
ever.
car phobia is intense enough.
It's real. It is real. Speaking of weird card things and like what you can get away with now what you could get away with before that you can't get away with now. My dad once told me a story where him and his friends were in a car and they put like a fake siren, like that they bought at a costume store or whatever, on top of the car, and they pulled girls over and would like be like, oh, blah, 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 and the girls would start crying, and then they'd be like, oh, we're just kidding, we're not cops. And like I remember hearing these stories from my dad and being like, oh, that's funny. And like now I think about it and I'm like, oh, you would be arrested 1,000%.
What a terrifying time to be alive.
Whereas in like the 70s or whenever it was, this is just like a prank, like it's a
The
joke.
70s
But-
are horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, I think if the cops had seen them do it,
Oh yeah, they would have gotten in trouble. Yeah.
But hopefully, into this day and age, the woman would call the cops.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's a real.
Yeah, there's so much stuff
Also,
that my
do you know
parents
how
talked about doing that I'm just
mad
like, what?
I would be. I shouldn't have a car because I think about just running my car into other cars too much.
No.
But like, yeah, I would just back right into their car. I would just be like, "Oh, you're not cops? Oh, interesting." And then,
Yeah. Then I guess you
straight
can't
into
arrest me for
reverse.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to ask a question to lead back to how terrifying the 70s were. Do you watch Netflix? You have Netflix?
Obviously.
Have you watched Abducted in Plain Sight?
Oh, I have not, but someone basically explained the entire.
That's what he did for me.
had
I'm like,
to.
I don't think I'm going to watch it. So just explain the whole thing.
And I said, sit down. And you're like, I'm busy. I'm like, sit down. And
You're not
At one point, the cop just goes, "This is 1976. I'd heard the word molester, but I didn't know what it was." And it's just like,
Oh my
bro,
God.
that's not that recent. That's pretty recent, right? 1976.
Yeah, no, there was.
So for the last 40 years, we knew what molestation was. Can we talk about the 460 years before that?
Well, it was. Men just did whatever they wanted.
That's honestly,
There was no
it's-
against the law.
To see a cop just say like kind of like blankly like, I mean, we knew about stranger danger, so I mean, I guess we knew it was a thing. You got a cop referencing stranger danger as his only reference
Yeah.
to why this would be bad.
Honestly, we're going to look back on now and talk about how police don't really understand like the internet and like
Yes, I agree.
cyberbullying and like things like that.
Oh, there's
'Cause,
so much.
Yeah, we've even been through stuff where it's just like the cops don't understand that. You know what I mean? Like there's no repercussions to things done on the internet.
When
And
the
like,
internet came out, I didn't realize that it was essentially just saving everybody's life because there was a lot of people in a lot of places who just like shit happens to them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, then people just move on.
yeah.
And now
Well-
with the internet, there's at least a place that could be recorded. There's a place that could be. Do you know
There's
what I
more
mean?
awareness, but unfortunately, yeah, now we all know, but still nothing really happens. Like,
but I hear you because definitely I'm never suggesting the problem is solved. That's never
totally.
Even
but
when I'm being.
At least now we're much more aware.
There is a system for a place to tell that story.
Yeah.
And I mean, even before the internet, there was other systems developing, but I think it's culminated in this internet.
Yeah,
where there's a
you
place
could get that video out to however many people.
100%. Or, threatening text messages, you can post them. And it's like, that option existing.
Yeah.
It's easy for us to be like, well, nothing changes. Let's do a little experiment where we go to a world where it doesn't even exist, where you've got these threatening texts from your boyfriend and there's nowhere you could even send them. And by the way, there's not even text back then. They were just sent to your face.
Yes.
So it's just like,
it's true.
There's just no way to document this to move sideways and slip out of the situation, which I feel like, and again, I know it's not that easy, but you hear so many stories now where it's like, oh, someone posted something and then maybe even 6 months later, which are 6 horrifying months, but it's like, wow, I can only imagine how horrifying it would be to live in central Indiana, 1969, and you're in this situation. It's just like, the cop's best friends with my husband.
Yes.
There is no system. And you're just like, too bad I was born here.
I also want to clarify in terms of like, there obviously there is a step forward, and it's like, it's hard to ride that line, right? Of like, okay, yay, we've moved a little bit forward.
Not there yet.
Boo, we're not there yet. It's still a big problem, but yeah, at least there is something.
And the thing is, it's developing. So it started off with like, you can call somebody. There's these helplines. That's the first thing I remember, where there's some kind of, because I mean, in my world, there was enough things that were like almost worthy of calling a number, but none fully worth putting you there. But so being aware that those were there, I would always think like, if things got really bad, then it's good to know that there's like kids helplines and like women's helplines and things like that. And then that goes into the internet where you don't even need to call the specific line. A motherfucker could like post something and potentially that could be useful, or you can send it to Crime Stoppers, or there's these other things that grow. And but we're not done, because now that with the Me Too movement and everything happening on social media, I feel like more than ever there's a spotlight on like, could this technology be used to resolve some of these problems?
Right.
I.e. creating transparency. The cameras on cops has not solved the issue, but I'm still hyped that they exist.
Yeah, I think there's a flip side and a dark side, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, we could go all day about the
we could go back and forth. I'm like, because there is a real pushback, and I was just thinking about this you talking about, we didn't even have a word for molester in the 70s, and French Stewart actually, weirdly, I feel so weird that I'm referencing him, but a friend of mine shared this post that he made, and he was talking about how he did some late show with, oh my God, what is Charo?
Sure.
And she had kind of just become famous for like her catchphrase and doing these little dances, but then backstage she started playing flamenco guitar and she was amazing. And he's like, oh, right, I forgot, like, that's why, like, that's what we're supposed to know her for. And then he's talking about Dolly Parton, and she is a legend, but he grew up his whole life just hearing boob jokes about her.
You're right,
and he was like, Bob Dylan and Jerry Garcia never had to take a joke or have a catchphrase. They were just accepted as legends. And these women, people forgot what they were so great at because they became the punchline to a joke. And he was like, so next time you're asking yourself why your sister or your neighbor or your friend is so mad, that's why she's mad, right? And it was this idea of like, yes, we've come really far, but people are still going to get really mad about the stuff that's still not working out. And it's like, oh yeah, there are these weird little, like, anyone who's been molested is going to be like, yeah, great that they know what it means now, but also do something about it.
No,
and so it's like, that's where kind of, and I didn't mean to be a super downer, but it's that's why sometimes I'm like, yay, women have come so far. And then other times I'm like, what do you mean I have to hear that joke again? Like,
women have come so far, but in a lot of ways, and I don't mean women, because women, it sort of implies that like they finally got their act together. That's not, you know what I mean? It's like, it's come so far.
I'm going to cut that into a clip for the podcast.
On a t-shirt.
Please do.
But in a lot of ways, it just illuminates how far we had to go to begin with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just the further we come, you're like, wow, we really have come. It's like 500% better, but it's still really bad. It's like, wow, I didn't think it was as bad as it was.
Yeah.
But if we've improved this much and it's still quite bad, it's
God.
how far down
It's
in the
so
whole
interesting
world
where we are with technology versus like human rights. You know what I mean?
I know.
It's really interesting. But I do think that ultimately technology will help to get our human rights.
Well, now that men have big screen TVs, we're willing to spend some of the time and money.
Don't even. That's so too real.
So we can see the Super Bowl in high enough definition that now we're okay with talking about equal pay and who gets to decide on the whole baby thing. We're ready to have these conversations now.
Oh, Lord.
I jokingly represent this group. I do not.
Well, speaking of babies and who gets to decide that,
Let's keep it dark.
No, let's talk about politics for a quick second. And I hate to talk about it, but I do find what's going on in the U.S. super interesting right now. And that's that this Friday there might be another government shutdown. Have you heard this?
Interesting.
So yeah, so
I knew that it was potentially coming back around.
Yeah. So basically this Friday, one of four things is going to happen. So the first one is they reach a deal where Trump kind of like gives in like a little bit and is just like, okay,
I thought you were going to say like a little bitch.
He gives in like a little bitch.
That's how he's thinking about it. He's
say
like, if I
you
give
say it
in at
again
all-
and say it like a little bitch.
Okay. So basically one of four things is going to happen this Friday. They reach a deal and Trump's going to give in like a little bitch.
Okay.
No. So he gives in and basically not shutting down becomes more important than him being right, essentially is the first option, because him shutting down the government again is a really big deal. Because largely
the rational way to go here, right?
Largely he was blamed for the last one. Like the shutdown was very not well received and
it was very wall related, isn't it? The whole
it's all wall. So yeah, sorry if to
like
anyone who doesn't know,
option A,
this is
though,
all
doesn't
wall
sound like
related.
from the window to the wall,
Yeah.
to the sweat drips off his balls.
Two, they keep everything open except for Homeland Security because that's the basic thing. Or the basic.
You mean everything closed except Homeland Security?
No, they keep everything open. So there's no shutdown except for they shut down Homeland Security because that's the part.
department.
That's the wall department.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Walls are us.
Yeah, just shut that down. I'm
And
fine
then
with
they
that.
keep negotiating or whatever. Three is that they keep negotiating everything and they just don't shut down. They just keep negotiating. And four is that they shut down. So we'll see what happens.
Interesting.
But we listened to a really sweet podcast last night about the Mexican tunnels.
Yeah.
And it really opened my eyes to like, I mean, I always knew the wall was stupid, but it's just like, now I'm just like, oh, it's so stupid because it's just like, there's no like
tunnels under walls for a time.
yeah, like we were listening to this podcast about these, was it hundreds or thousands?
99% invisible. We'll give the credit. New episode called The
Yes.
Tunnel. And yeah, like sophisticated tunnels that go from like
There's like all across the U.S. leading into Mexico. There's all these like like in people's houses. It just goes down underneath their house and then goes like 2 miles long into Mexico. Yeah, and it's just like, why? I don't know. Do you guys have anything to say on this topic,
Jess
or is it weird
agrees with
today?
Trump in every way except for this one. It's really just
just the wall.
Just the
We're also going to
effectiveness.
cut a clip of that.
Because if it was more effective, Jess would actually be pro wall. That's the thing.
Right.
No,
I know the wall is straight up dumb.
It's very dumb.
I'm going to make a prediction right now. Government gets shut down again.
Yeah, because he's not going to give in.
No, I think he feels like he gave in once, and that's a miracle in itself.
And his people called him soft for reason.
Yeah.
I mean, like they were not happy with how he handled the last shutdown. So
yeah.
just saying.
Wow.
Like, it wasn't like they were like, well handled. Twitter was generally like, Trump, you didn't do the thing you said you were going to do.
The statements that I heard from his side was that they're willing to negotiate, but there's going to be some sort of barrier. So not a wall, but like a barbed wire fence. Like, what do you like?
Hedge?
There
A
was
hedge.
this fascinating conversation between Kellyanne Conway and a journalist, and this was maybe a month ago, like in the last shutdown, where she just kept being like, you can't call it a wall. And they were like, the president just said wall.
Yeah.
And she's like, call it a barrier. And this was all arguing over semantics just for a question that they had asked Kellyanne Conway.
Wow.
I get it for PR purposes. They should stop calling it a wall. If they're trying to move forward their agenda, they should find a happier word. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, that's a trick they've been using for quite some time.
Yeah. From a PR standpoint, I get why she would say that.
Sure. It's just we're like, it would make me insane if I had to work in that government.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I suppose the way I look at it is, at this point, the thing that matters most to me is what happens next after Trump.
Right.
And maybe not. And I mean, I don't mean after Trump so much as after this presidency, because I don't think we know do we know for sure, is he running again?
Oh, he's.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I would imagine he would run.
I imagine he would, but I didn't know if
think we're going to have 8 years.
Do you think he's going to come back for 4 more?
I don't think the Democrats can get their shit together.
I believe that as well.
Yeah, let's think.
Yeah.
So whether we're talking about a year from now or 5 years from now, wherever we are, you know what I mean? Whether we're doing one cycle or two, it's like, I think the thing that matters most is what happens long term in terms of how the system moves on, because it's like, it could go one way where it's like, this launches this like boat rocker thing where it's like you can kind of put anybody in who's willing to rock the boat and keep everyone on their toes, and it's like that's a very scary future if politics goes very Trump, using him as a case study, and now both sides are going to put Trumps in.
Best case scenario, you get a boat rocker who actually knows government, right? But doesn't like, because unfortunately the system that the Democrats have set up right now, like they're floating like Biden and Hillary and Bernie all as possibles for 2020. And it's like,
some failed attempts already in there.
Get all of them out. And look young and look farther left. Because the problem is the left wants to stay middle. And it's like, no, don't. Go farther left.
Yeah, get people excited.
Yeah,
because it's not exciting when it's like just, you know what I mean.
I think
like
you guys nailed it. I think that's what it's about, because nobody was excited. I mean, people were excited because Hillary was a woman, and she's also like an impressive woman. It's not just the possession of the vagina. She's an impressive woman, but it's just like I think most people were skeptical and not truly excited about.
And also, she had kind of been around for, you know what I mean.
That might be what it is.
She was not legitimately the establishment.
Yeah, she wasn't new news. Like, she was washed. Yeah,
she played the game the way every single man played it up until that point. But the problem was we were getting tired of the game.
Yeah.
And then so when she came in as a woman, it was like, okay, yes, I'm excited as a woman. And yes, in a way, I'm proud of her for playing the game and for getting as far as she did, and kind of all the bullshit that she sucked up along the way to follow that goal. But unfortunately, people looked at the nefarious shit she did, which was not any worse than any of the previous male presidents did, but it was a woman doing it now, and we're trying to
maybe more well documented, because I certainly felt like I was kept abreast of.
Well, just we have
publicized.
We have more access to information,
and it was instant, because
Bill got away with shit because the internet wasn't huge till he left the office.
There was no Twitter thing where right at the top it says, "Did you know this happened today?" Where it's like the crazy thing that happened that day is like sitting there on your phone screen when you turn it on. That didn't happen during any of these more fucked up presidencies that I wasn't around for. And some of the ones I was, but I was.
They've all been super fucked up.
Yeah,
we just have limited information about most of them.
And now it's instant, and now they have their opposition tweeting constantly about every leaked bit of.
And everyone's leaking everything.
Yeah, exactly.
What freaks me out is just like all the stuff that is just flying under the radar now because everyone's so focused on this like wall stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, how many other more important issues are just not getting any attention right now? Like, such a waste of time. It's been like, I was going to say it's been months, but I think it's been like his whole presidency, right? That it's been like a push towards this. You know what I mean? Like,
he definitely like picked it up in terms of intensity at a certain point where it's like, now time to get to that wall.
It did seem like it was after he first got elected, it kind of went quiet for a bit, and then everyone was like, oh, he wasn't actually going to do
some other racist shit first before he got to this particular task. God. He had to make sure he put an old white man in the Supreme Court first, and these other things.
Oh, the fights I've had over that guy.
Jeez, yeah.
We actually don't
Sorry,
get
guys.
We actually don't get too heavy into Trump here because the general policy is, of course, fuck Trump.
Yeah.
But like, what do we have to offer on
I
the
just
subject?
found it interesting that there is going to be, or there's probably going to be a second shutdown. Like, that's a pretty big deal. That's never happened in our lifetime. You know what I mean?
To connect to my thing about looking forward, I guess what I was sort of getting at was I like these examples, such clear examples that he's fucking up, like the government shutting down.
Yeah,
right.
I'll
take any of those. I'll take any of these, like, he couldn't get the car to start. You know what I mean? I'll take as many of those as possible. So when we all look back, it's like cringy Rodney Dangerfield face about his presidency.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Because, I understand the danger, and I understand that there are like people not getting paid, and there are so many implications. Like, fuck me for being so hyped that the government's going to shut down. But I like watching him fail and fall on his face, because at least from my very uninformed political opinion, it's like I wouldn't want that to be my legacy if I was president, that I couldn't keep the thing open for more than 6 months.
But I think he believes the narrative that he has no other choice. That this is the opposition's fault, right? And that's what his believers believe.
Unfortunately, when you're dealing with belief systems like that, where there's like safety nets built in, there's no completely convincing them that they're all stupid. Yeah, but I think it doesn't matter, because we know as a currency, the government being open is the ideal scenario.
Yeah.
And therefore, when they look back, if he's the guy with the most shutdowns or the most shutdown days, that becomes a clear, almost undeniable marker of like an unsuccessful presidency.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they're not going to look at the failed wall as a miss. They're going to be like, well, stupid liberals got in the way, or whatever the case is. But it's like, man, the White House was closed for this percentage of his presidency. He couldn't keep people in their jobs. It's like, anyways, in the beginning, I was one of the naive people who were like, maybe him getting in will force them to burn the whole thing to the ground. And then you realize, almost like the other thing, it's like, there's a long way to go to the ground.
Yeah.
It's like, do you really want to burn all the way down to the ground? And
it was never happened
so.
that fast.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Right? It'll be a slow, painful.
And part of me is a nihilist who likes seeing like, because it's all fucked up.
Sure.
The fact that Obama can pass like a how to feed the troops bill and then slide in some other shit. It's like, when you hear about these types of stories, it's like, well, it's all fucked up. So I do, the nihilist in me does go, well, then let's put the dumbest guy in so that we can all have a really great look at how fucked up it all is, so that maybe in 100 years, even though he sucks, we'll kind of course correct.
Oh, you're
I don't
an
know,
optimist. Yeah.
Well, but partially, like, you got to break it to fix it, sort of. But I don't know that's 100%
No, I get that. I just think that when you break it,
it might just keep getting more broken.
Like the anarchy is the potential outcome with or chaos, let's say.
So the only way forward is to move forward in inch by inch by putting people in and realize, because if I believe, I'm one of the people who's never voted before.
Yeah. Don't.
No. Hear me out. No. It's okay. Let's just not yell about it, but we can touch it.
I don't consent to touching it.
Okay. I believe that if you were to put, let's say, somebody like you who's just very empathetic and kind of gets what so many of us is important to us, even someone like you who's really an ally and really would be hard to be corrupted and like ruined.
Yeah.
Would struggle moving us forward more than an inch or two in your political career.
Sure.
So it's sort of like you need to commit to, we'll be able to get enough of you in offices to move us an inch forward at a time over many dozens of years is a sort of your best case scenario.
Sure.
That's why I struggle. It's because I struggle with that being best case scenario.
But because when you look at everything getting torn down, you see all the positives.
I see negatives too, but I know what you mean. It's that there's a lot of ways that could go wrong. And I understand.
There is so many ways. And not that I'm saying we need to keep the system we have now, but if we're going to tear it down, we got to put something in place. Because the other thing is having the dumbest guy in. So now, let's say in the past, people have pulled it forward 2 inches. What if this guy pulls it back 5 feet?
Which is what happened.
Yeah. So now we're way farther
scale,
back.
But
now you know what I mean? And
for sure.
That's the other thing.
But is there any way, and there's no way to know this, but as like almost like a postulate, as like a thought experiment, to think that like him bringing us back, let's say more accurately, because I don't think he can bring us back 5 feet in the same scale. If one person brings forward 2 inches, maybe he brings back 8 inches, which is shitty.
Yeah.
That's 4 presidencies backwards. You know what I mean? It, in theory, it's not bringing it entirely to the ground. It's showing many of us where this particular course is going. And maybe there's a more extreme thing that otherwise you and I wouldn't be mobilized to even be having a conversation about.
Right.
That like, is there a level we could go down, like a root canal? We can go a layer deeper in terms of like, let's talk about, for example, like the whole like take money out of politics. When I was 16, I'm sure someone said that to me. It meant nothing to me. In the last 5 years, those words burn in my ears.
Right.
You start to really learn about the significance of money in politics.
Oh, for sure.
And one might argue that a really bad example of somebody buying a presidency might make us all be like, for fuck's sakes, no more of this.
Right.
Money out of politics, which would move us forward 5 feet.
Yes.
In theory. This is my sort of
Sure. And that
example
is very shiny. And I think, so one thing I'll say too, is I think in terms of laws and repealing things, I think Trump has probably brought people backwards. In terms of if you look at like where racism is at and, you know, anti-LGBTQ people, anti-choice people, all that kind of stuff.
In particular, that stuff.
I don't think he has brought us backwards. I think he has shown us where we are.
Yes.
Because
and they gave the power to that side of the room, essentially.
Well, he gave the voice, right?
Yeah.
So he made it okay for people to be publicly racist again, which for a long time they weren't. Now, racism is wrong, but now instead of the racists being quiet and underground, they're in your face. Mm-hmm. Is that taking us backwards, or is that putting a mirror in front of us, right? And so it's like, don't get me wrong, I think he's not good, and I don't like racism, and I like everyone being equal and having human rights.
He hasn't made people more racist. He's just
he's empowered them to say, guess what? I don't like those people. And it's like, gross. Well, at least I know where you are now.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think that's just a side effect of the internet too, and that you give people a voice, and some of them want to use it in that particular way. And so now we're able to measure how many people are tweeting racist things today. Someone over at Twitter knows that number.
But I think
what I mean? And it's like,
now
we didn't used to have a metric for that.
Now you know the people around you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You go, oh, I know, because people will tweet stuff and make Facebook comments and they'll say things. And even in terms of the way they behave, right? They'll post private things or they'll start fights. And now you go, oh, I know, I see a side of you that I never got to see before. And so it's like, there's no one that I've actively like, when I see them in public, I refuse to speak to them. But I have cataloged the behavior of several people online where it's like, oh, I don't trust you anymore. Yeah. Oh, I don't think you know, are someone I want to get to know better or hold closer in my life. Yeah. So that's been really interesting too.
In a lot of ways, I think in 10 years, they'll look back at now and be like, why was it so crazy?
Yeah.
Because I think there'll be an adjustment.
Yeah.
Where racist people will learn how racist to be on the internet. And by the way, they're dying. I don't believe that they're growing in numbers.
I don't think they're growing in numbers either.
You know,
except the concept of, I do think that they recruit and attempt to recruit angry young people.
Oh, for sure they do. I just think knowledge goes in one direction. It's like, man, when I was young, I mean, I'm Italian, I'm white, but like the darkest guy in my hometown that I lived in, you know what I mean? And then the minute I had a black friend, any whispers of not getting people of other colors died the first time me and my buddy like played video games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like most racist people have not had nearly enough exposure to the people that they're so mad at, for that to be an informed opinion.
Yeah.
The racism doesn't come from an informed, I went to college with black people and I came home, fuck them.
Yeah.
That's not the story. The story is I knew one or two and I did not like those guys, and my dad told me this and my uncle told me this and my neighborhood generally believes this, and you become racist, I think, as mostly a byproduct of your surroundings, not like experience with that race or with gay people or with...
No, it's usually lack of experience.
It's lack of experience.
Yeah.
And the internet creates experience. It creates exposure opportunities. Mm-hmm. People are less stuck in their town because they don't know where else you want to go. No, you see all these other cool places you want to go visit. And when you get there, you're going to meet gay people and you're going to meet trans people and you're going to meet women who are nothing like the girls from your town, and and there's just no way to stay in that little bubble that you were in that was very, very easy to stay in 1976.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I think that gives me I have this general feeling of things are moving in the right direction because I believe exposure creates experience and experience creates wisdom, and knowledge only goes in one direction. Right. No one ever learns to be more ignorant and more hateful. Not ever, you know what I mean? Statistically, that's not the way that knowledge and tolerance goes. It goes in one direction.
Yeah.
And if things are going in one direction and speeding up, I feel generally optimistic that my nephew, when he's older, won't get why Black Panther was such a big deal.
Yeah.
Because that will be the norm for him.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that'll be the norm, that there'll be dozens of these. That was a whole franchise. He thinks it's old and washed up now. But for us, it was the first. So of course it's crazy. You're looking at something for the first time. You know, anyways, I just think we're moving in a direction and it's speeding up, but it doesn't feel like it because we're in the moment.
Right.
Yeah. And we also have a microscope on all the negative as well right now with the internet. You know what I mean?
And we should. I kind of like that we're rooting out the bullshit.
Yeah.
But I'm aware that I think it's going to slow. I think it's going to slow down as assholes become smarter and as we've gotten the really shitty ones who've just been being shitty forever. So there's so many examples of their shittiness out in the universe.
Right.
And then, there will be later on, we'll find out that this guy was better at keeping a secret and then work those people out. And then I think the kids are going to grow up with the internet and they have this general sense of like, you're never behind closed doors. Maybe don't behave like you are.
Right.
It's almost like you would evolve differently as a young man in a world where that's not even really a thing, where there's these shadowy places you can be a real creep.
Right.
It's not really any shadows anymore. Where are you hiding being so creepy that no one's hearing about it? You know what I mean? And I just think when you're 50, you learn to be a better liar. But when you're 5, you develop differently because there aren't shadows to go pull your dick out in necessarily. People have cell phones and they're snapping pics of your dick.
It's always going to be a shadow.
I like it.
There's always some shadows, but you know what I mean.
It always comes back to dicks.
Just as somewhat of an explanation of why I think things are going in the right direction and not in like a rose-colored glasses way so much as I see, you look at the old shit, I watch old movies and it's like, and 3 out of 5 babies died. And it's just like, wow, things have really come a long way.
It's true.
In like so many little ways. Now 5 out of 5 babies survive mostly.
Speaking of dick pics, have you heard about the Jeff Bezos stuff?
Yeah.
I love it. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah.
Corporate espionage shit.
Yes. Oh, so you know about like the deeper stuff too, because there's like a surface story and then there's like a deeper story.
Okay.
So the surface story is that the National Enquirer or whatever emailed him basically saying, we have the following pictures of you.
Yes.
And if you don't, whatever, we're going to leak them essentially.
Whatever is stop investigating us.
Oh, okay.
So Bezos was investigating
it gets
them
deeper
for
from
some
the
reason.
beginning. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, but what? So he's a super rich guy. When did he become a PI? What's
my
his-
guess is that they have said unflattering things about him in the past,
right?
And that he has signed an investigator because
I know
he's
the
up to
deets.
their nefarious activities. Yeah,
I know the deets, and I usually never know the deets.
Also,
but I
his
actually know
girlfriend's
the deets.
brother gave them the pictures of his wang.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But
that's kind of shitty.
Where did
But he cheated.
get
That's shitty too.
pictures of? Okay,
He texted.
Yeah, I don't know
he
that.
was sexting with.
He was sexting with
the
someone.
reporter lady.
Yeah.
so her brother took the phone.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
If my sister says to me, "You'll never believe it. You'll never believe who I am fucking right now," and I say, "Who?" Mark Zuckerberg. And this guy's, I would say, bigger. He is more rich, but I would say more powerful even in a way. But let's say Mark Zuckerberg, I'll be like, you're kidding me. Show me. And if she showed me like sex, I'm not the guy to be looking at her phone. I got other shit going on.
Do you have
But I would not be.
sisters?
Yeah, my little sister's my best friend other than the one I'm.
So my brother and I are very close and we talk very freely, but I'm not showing him a picture of me doing sex.
No, but she might show me a phone, like
but
messages from him to
just-
prove
okay.
that there's a
Of
sexual
just this
relationship
naked
with
guy on the phone.
Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
I don't mean show me his dick even. I just mean show me something to verify to me that you are in some relationship with
I love how you're
Zuckerberg.
trying to dig for like the benefit of doubt, but it's like, no, you wouldn't just leak these pictures.
No, I wouldn't. And I wouldn't go there.
But
I'm just
how
saying,
did he get his hands on it?
I'm saying
took
this.
her phone?
Yes.
He's,
Could be
he's
accessible.
sketchy AF. That's
I have
all
a
I'm
lot
saying.
going on in my life. I have no reason to steal my sister's phone, send myself the dick pics, and extort her new boyfriend. But I could see how some loser might do that.
Yeah, he's a big loser. That's my point. My point is what a creepy piece of shit.
Okay.
But when you're Bezos, that's the life, man. You can't be sending dick pics out. Those dick pics are worth like a Gucci bag.
Also, who is? Can we?
Your bag is worth a bag.
I'm gonna. Can I keep it real for a minute? Can I dispel him?
Let's keep it real.
Allison Dore is going to keep it real.
Don't send pictures of your dick.
No.
Yeah.
Nobody needs them.
She might have asked. We don't know. Because they're in a
Nobody's asking.
relationship. No, she might have. We don't know.
If she's asking, it's
been
for
asked.
blackmail purpose.
No, I have been asked, and I have obliged, but like not
sent
many
dick
times.
pics?
Yes,
Okay, but
2
here's
in my
the thing.
life.
Okay, wait a second. Let's rewind to
Yeah.
the last
I
episode
told
when
you
I
this
said,
before.
if you ever get famous, what could be leaked that would be...
No, but my face wasn't in it, by the way,
okay,
so I'm
that's
fine.
true.
I learned.
Sure.
I learned.
I would
the
know
lessons.
if it was your dick.
Yeah, you would know,
Okay.
but you wouldn't be mad from
But
dicks
here's
pictures
my,
shining
Jess,
at you.
have you ever been like, man, I wish I had a
Have
picture
you ever
of his
have you
dick?
ever texted
Never.
a guy this? Send me a picture of your dick.
Never.
You've never said that?
Absolutely.
I know.
never.
No, listen. I know girls know. Listen, I know.
Yeah,
that.
I'm just saying.
No, I know, but I've been asked, and so I obliged in that case. In a
I'm not
non-rapey
saying.
way.
I'm not saying. Okay. I'm not saying no one's ever asked. I'm saying no one's ever needed it.
Sure, yeah.
No one has ever. So that girl, by the way,
Those
has-
girls, by the way, weren't like, I'll die without it.
Yeah, but also, by the way, the girl you sent that picture to has shown all her friends.
Yeah, that's fine.
And so it's like one of those things where it's like the only reason you're getting asked to send a picture of your dick is so she can show other people. So be aware of that.
It's usually in an exchange of photos. So
Yeah.
she's so yeah.
Can I
I'm
say
aware
even
that,
when
no, I'm
even
aware
when
that
those
she's
photos are
going
being
to show those
exchanged,
photos.
I've never asked for a picture of anyone.
No, I understand. Dicks are ugly, and I know why. Way more often, girls have sent me a sexy picture than have asked for one. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, hey guys, double down. Girls love looking at pictures of your dick.
Yeah.
I just mean you said no one's asked for dick pictures of your dick, and I'm saying I've been asked twice.
No, I
So you
said
can't
no one
assume-
needs.
He's a billionaire.
Oh,
for
no,
sure,
no,
girls
no.
are asking for pictures of his
I'm
dick.
sure people have asked. You never need to do it.
So you're saying don't do it, even if asked.
I'm just saying nobody needs it. She
Also,
doesn't really need
he
it.
was married, so probably he could have just done things in different order as well.
Yes.
Well, look, he's a dumb idiot. This is what I mean. It's people who did not grow up with the internet. It's old people fucking up internet stuff.
Yeah.
Also, Bezos doesn't really care.
Yeah.
I'm sure his stock was.
So that's kind of part of the story is that he doesn't care, right? Because
Yeah.
it was just like they basically were like, we're going to blackmail you. And he essentially posted their email and was like, go ahead. Like what you got, essentially.
Do you know that the National Enquirer has 3,000 followers on Twitter? I know this because I've been, ever since this story, roasting them to death.
What?
Because like, they're a pretty big publication, right?
Yeah.
Their official verified Twitter has on average 2 or 3 retweets.
I mean, publication's a strong word.
Well,
but-
because their reader base
Yeah.
is not on the
No, I know. It's just funny
No,
to
exactly
think about.
what it is.
It just shows
Everyone's
that
older.
they're quite mortal.
but the deeper thing, so basically, see if I get this right. So AMI owns the National Enquirer,
Yes.
and AMI has been known to support the Saudi prince who had a reporter murdered. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bezos
Khashoggi.
owns the Washington Post, which is where that reporter worked.
Oh, interesting.
So apparently there has been conflict between, I guess, like Saudi
He might have
Arabia
an issue
and
with this company
Bezos
in general.
And
Yeah.
so apparently these this kind of shaming of him
So that's
is
what probably
linked
the initial
to
investigation was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what a badass move would be if he just sent, like, he replied to the blackmail email with a picture of his dick?
Yeah,
Just
that would
suck
be a
this.
boss move.
Yeah, that would be the best. Just be like, oh, does it look like this?
That one was a little blurry. Here's a better one.
Here's a better photo.
Here's a better angle.
That's
Yeah.
really funny.
All right, let's get happy. Let's talk about the Grammys.
Okay.
Are you a big...
No.
No, not at all.
No, I don't care.
Who are we excited about this year? We didn't actually watch them. We just
We don't watch.
recap.
But I mean, it is the biz I'm in, and Drake, the hometown hero, took away best rap single of the year for God's Plan, which is an interest factor only because it's like, man, this is how I describe Drake. It's like being from a place and then watching someone just stand in front of you and then just start to fly. And like, how the fuck did you do that? And everyone else around starts trying to fly. And they can't do it.
A few people fly.
Yeah, a few of us
Right.
get like a few feet off the ground and then you
Yeah,
fall.
a few catch like the momentum
Yes,
from his
a few
fly.
people caught some momentum with it, but it's like watching him go from, wow, he's selling out shows. Oh wow, he got signed to Lil Wayne. Oh wow, Raptors want to partner with him, and it's just like he's ticking off all of my bucket list dreams one by
Right.
one, literally coming from the same College Street venues. And so there's not a hater bone in my body, but I do cheerlead every time he does another crazy thing, like walk away with rap song of the year coming from fucking College Street. So kudos to Drake on that one. And Cardi B won rap album of the year, which we love. We're big Cardi B fans over here.
Boot Up, which
First
is one of
woman
our...
to read.
Yeah, first
solo.
woman to win.
Yes,
That's right.
yes. Boot Up, which is one of our fave songs of the year, won Best R&B song.
Oh, cool.
And her, H.E.R. Do you know her, the artist?
No.
Her? Super,
soft neo
super
soul.
dope. Yeah, R&B neo soul artist. We actually worked with her when she was super new.
On the come up.
on the come up. We contacted her manager and did a lyric video for her.
You contacted Gab directly initially.
Oh yeah, and then she gave me her manager's email, and then we did a lyric video for her, and we were super excited to watch her grow. And now she won, I think, for best performance. Her and Daniel Caesar won an award for best performance. Another Torontonian
for
the best part.
Yeah, her was really fun because when Jess first messaged her, I had never heard of her. It's weird to say that because I'm saying her and her name and switching also with the regular word. And I remember you played me her stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is really in line with what we listen to. Like, we really love that smooth R&B. And then it was just like, but I don't know who that is. But that's what we do for a living with lyric vids. Is like we reach out to dozens, hundreds of artists where one of us will be like, wow, this band's pretty good. Oh, what's their name? Oh, that's a cool name. And then we just move on. You know what I mean? And then so we did actually 4 or 5 videos for this girl, starting off just talking to this girl named Gabby on her Instagram. And then she's like, hey, I got a deal. You got to talk to my manager now. And then at a certain point, her manager's like, listen, things are really moving here. I'm no longer in control of, and you just watch like it grow exponentially out from now the manager's no longer in control of the image anymore. It's gotten much bigger. She's now a international priority artist for Universal International. So I don't know if she's on Universal, but one of the big boys. Yeah. And then same thing to even when she got the 5 Grammy nominations, that was a big jump for her. We didn't even know she would be considered for Grammys yet.
Yeah, that's huge.
On her first album. And now to win one, it's like you really watch the trajectory, like, holy shit, you were just DMing with this girl on her couch like 2.5 years ago. Yeah. And then now on top of the world, and we went and saw her at Rebel nightclub. And it was, that's a huge spot for like a kind of a singer like that, packed wall to wall, and watching people cry when she was singing, it was just like, she really did it. Like she really did the thing.
Yeah.
And her story, Gabby's story, is that they tried several times under her legal name and it just the fire didn't catch.
Right.
So they took her name away, took her face away, just sold her as like a silhouette and called her H.E.R. And it's like this kind of thing. It's more of a mood.
Yeah, sure.
And then it's like, again, just really inspiring when you watch it happen in front of your eyes, like exponential growth. So yeah, she won a Grammy last night. So kudos to her, to Gab.
We were watching some Grammy recaps before you got here. And one thing we were laughing at together, and we always laugh at together, is how like celebrity reporters and like celebrity what would you call it, like E! Tonight or whatever, E! Talk or whatever,
news.
How they always like blow things up to seem like way more significant and important than they are. Like it was just like, oh, you won't believe what Lady Gaga said during this interview. And then like you click on the interview and she's just like, yeah, like, no, I don't really like that. And it's just like, oh, so she said she didn't really like something? Like, yeah,
it's not really a moment.
It's just like, ugh. And I don't even not subscribe to celebrity news. Like sometimes I want to hear about it, but it's just like, don't clickbait me though, just give me it when it's actually something worth reading, And another thing I've noticed lately, and then we talked about this the other night at my friend's house, is that a lot of articles that are written about celebrity news are literally they'll write an article about their post. So they'll be like, hey, Kim Kardashian posted this bikini photo. This is what people had to say about it. Yeah. And it's just like, wait, so I could just go to her Instagram and look at this. I don't need an article about her Instagram post. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's like not actual news as it is just like taking stuff that already exists and kind of like, you know what I mean? Like
especially with the like quote moments that weren't even really quote moments. Like we're not haters. Like I know you do some celebrity stuff and like we nerd out on celebrity stuff sometimes, but have it be actually a moment of thing worth talking about. Mm-hmm. My favorite was I guess Ariana. This is the real news story. Ariana was going to perform, of course, at the Grammys. And she pulled out because they wouldn't let her do the songs she wanted. She offered to do one song and let the Grammys choose the other, but that was not enough. They wanted to choose up both songs. So fuck them, she says. She pulls out from the Grammys. I say, that's dope. That's actually an interesting news story. Mm-hmm. We can talk about creative expression. She actually posted a picture on her Instagram of herself in the Grammy dress in her home. Like, fuck you. I can do my own red carpet here. Mm-hmm. Love it. I love the self-empowerment. This is E-Talk's angle on it. So Miley Cyrus comments on Ariana, and then they zoom in on Miley. I don't really care. Do your thing, boo.
Yeah, it's like,
I don't care. Do your thing, boo. It's not a moment.
No.
Keep asking. Someone will give you a quote. I'm sure of it. Come on, cuz. That's not a quote. I clicked it because I'm here for some casual.
You know why
that doesn't make the cut.
It's the clickbait of people who want the drama between girls. You know what I mean? They want to see
get unsubscribed because I subscribe to a few like varieties. YouTube's great. They do really in-depth interviews where it's like Rami Malek interviews this person. I love it. But if it's more of this, that's a nuisance to me. And I think carefully, that clickbait stuff becomes a nuisance to anybody who is here for like somewhat reasonably well-made content, you know?
Yeah.
For sure.
So I took your positive thing, made it a negative.
So I think we only have time for like one more thing, right? Are you agreeing on that?
Yeah, give me one more.
Okay. So as content creators, all three of us are content creators. I think this would be a cool topic to cover. And I know it's an issue that you and I have run into a few times, ill vibe, is that...
hemorrhoids.
Hemorrhoids. I have. Some YouTube creators are upset about what is considered adult content on YouTube. And it's kind of a thing that's like up for debate right now. So basically, this is the specific article that I read about.
Yeah.
It's kind of a debate between a YouTuber who's creating like funny content, like comedy videos and stuff, and then a girl who has a cleaning channel. I shouldn't even do this because it's like that already makes it seem like I'm